Welcome to the Dive into the World of Twin Motion webinar presented by TPM, Transforming Models into Experiences. My name is Beck Dugas. I'm an account manager here on the AEC team. I'm joined by my colleague Lee Peace. He is a TSC and Scan Tech on our AEC team. A little bit about TPM before we jump into the webinar. TPM is a 51-year-old technology company focused in the Southeast. Our goal is guiding AEC firms in their digital journey through technology and working with some of the best technologies out there: Autodesk, Bluebeam, Leica, Canon, just to name a few. So appreciate everyone joining. Lee, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we'll be learning about today?
Sure. To start with, we're going to cover a little introduction to Twin Motion, and then we're going to get into the material customization. We're going to go through the material library, some of the cool things you can do with all the different materials. We're going to cover adding sound to the model, and then we're going to go through a basic just bringing an area to life, taking a boring Revit model and turning it into an area that you want to show your customers.
Awesome, Lee. So what exactly is Twin Motion? So Twin Motion is an amazing visual tool provided by a partnership between Autodesk and Epic Games using the Unreal Engine. Twin Motion allows you to easily make realistic renderings out of any Revit model. It also allows you to see changes to the model in real time with the data link in Revit. Not only does it work in Revit, but it has a plugin that makes it compatible with Navisworks, SolidWorks, SketchUp, Rhino, and 3ds Max. Twin Motion provides an opportunity to show your clients your vision for their projects in the most realistic way possible. It allows you the chance to put your Revit model in the middle of a bustling city or a peaceful lakeside. You have the ability to create an environment that is customized to the client's real-world location, including sun location, time of year, customized weather, and more. To take it a step further, you can use Twin Motion with a VR headset and place your client in their future location right there with, in your office. Today, we'd like to show you some of the features, our favorite features of Twin Motion, including the material library, how to add sound to your model, and how to make your models come to life. Lee, show us what Twin Motion can do.
Sure. So like I said, we're going to get started in the material library. We're going to be looking at how to move around in Twin Motion, how to add realistic textures to the objects, some of the more common customizations that you can make to the textures, and give them a more 3D appearance. We're going to show off how they adapt to the light and some of the cool things you can do with the different materials. So, track this. Here we have the material room. This was created to show off all the different materials that you can play with in Twin Motion. So before I begin, Twin Motion uses the basic WASD controls. That's W and S moving forward and back, A and D going side to side, Q and E moving up and down, and your right mouse button to look around. So, like I said, this is the material room. All these materials come standard with Twin Motion. You have a combination of stones, you have tile, there's brick, steel, plastic, anything that you can think of, it's probably in Twin Motion. Just to get a good look, we have gold, copper, steel, carbon fiber, copper plates. That looks like some type of marble. And we're going to be spending a little time playing with some cubes I've added to the room. Before that, though, there's two different view options in Twin Motion. There's the drone mode, which we've been using to zoom around, and then there's the pedestrian mode. What that does is it lets you walk around and see the model like you would as if it was in front of you. So another little feature is the steps actually react to whatever you're walking on. So if you listen, you can hear me walking on steel, marble, and then stone. So for this, I'm going to go back to the drone mode. And we're going to take a look at some of the materials that we can work with. So I have two mahogany blocks. We're going to click on the material toolbar at the bottom. And to get a closer look at these, we're going to click on the eyedropper on the top. So when you use the eyedropper to select a material, it will go to it in the material library. It will also show you if it's used for just one object or multiple objects. The way you can see that is if it has multiple check marks beside it or just the one. So it appears that this is the only object tied to that material. Say we don't like the mahogany look of it, we can change the color. We can turn it into like a purple heart. And there we go. We can change the hue of it. We can click on the floor. Say we want the floor to look older than it is, we can add some grunge to it. And what that does is, if you notice around this area, it will add some film, some grunge, just to give it a little age. The luminosity toolbar will change how it reacts to light. So you can add a more glossy effect, or you can bring it down and just not let it reflect light at all. So we have some more cool options. We can go back to our little block. And actually, let's click on the floor. This will look better on the floor. One of the two things that you're going to use more than not on the materials is the rotation and the scale. So when you first place a material on an object, this is going to be the first thing you go to. So the scale actually controls how big the material looks on the object that you're placing it on, and the rotation changes its orientation. So if we want to actually line up the tile with the floor divider, we can do that, or we can leave it catty-cornered like it was. Let's get into the material library. Say we don't want to do the wood anymore, we want to pick a different material. Twinmotion has a vast array of different materials we can go through, as you've seen in the material room, and it is very easy to use those on any object. All it is clicking on it and dragging it over. So there we have a glass cube. We can do a mirror. What's cool is when you zoom in on the mirror, it's actually showing a reflection. Now, the reason it's not showing a detailed reflection on the top is it's trying to save your computer a little processing power. So it only reflects light a certain range. This keeps you from testing the thermal capabilities of your laptop. So we can test out a few more materials here. That one's a good one to show off the roughness setting. So every time you select a material, you're selecting the texture and you're selecting the color. So the color is what it looks like, and the texture is, this makes it easier to see. So it brings out the 3D-ness of the object, the depth of it. So the darker the image here, the more depth it's going to have. We can also adjust that in the roughness toolbar. So if we bring it up, we're going to have something that's very rough, very pronounced lines. And if we bring it back, it looks as if something's shiny, been polished, been shined. So it's very smooth. Let me change it once again. We're going to go with padded leather. just because I know that's a good thing to show off here. Any material that has metal in it, you'll be able to adjust the metallicness toolbar. So that is the reflection of any metallic object in the material. If we dull it down, it looks like a plastic pad. If we bring it up, then you can actually see the reflection of objects in that. So there's a plethora of other options that we could go through, but using these settings, using these tools, you can customize almost every aspect of your model.
Awesome, Lee. Yeah, too many to go through on this webinar, but just a glimpse into what you can do with the materials library. You can see that that library is going to play a big role in the functionality and value of Twinmotion. So we want to transition over to another way to add depth and realism into your model, and that's through sound. Tell us more, Lee.
So adding sound to a model, I think, is a very quick and easy way to add more interactiveness to really stand out. If you're doing a presentation mode or even a VR headset, it's just, it brings the immersiveness that much better. It makes it that much better. So to add a sound to an area, the material room has a little forest area in the middle of it. What we want to do is add sound just to that little forest area. We don't want it to go through the walls. We don't want it to go through the window. We just want the forest sound in that area. So going back to the library over here, we're going to go to Objects. We're going to go to Sound. And we have a variety of sounds that we can pull from. I'm going to go to Nature, and we're going to go, let's just do the calm forest. Nice, calm, relaxing, but that is way too large. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it's on the spear shape. That way our sound only radiates in a spear. And we're going to change the distance. So let's try 20 feet. So that looks a little small. Let's up it to 25 feet. That looks like it's going to fit just right. But it's not perfect in there, so let's just move the sound a little bit that way and just make it where it's just inside the walls. So what that does is, while we're inside the building, we don't hear anything. It's quiet. But the second we step foot outside, we have the nature. What I think is a really cool feature of this is the sound is directional. So it's coming from the origin point. So if I'm looking at, say, this wall over here, then to me, the sound is coming out of my left ear. You too?
Me too.
Cool. If I'm looking over here, it's coming out of my right ear. The further I'm getting from the sound, the less you hear it. So if I'm right up on top of it, it's going to be very loud. If I'm stepping back from it, it's not going to be that bad. So there's other shapes that you can use when creating sounds. There is the box shape, which you might not think could be used for much, but it's pretty useful, especially if you're wanting sound outside of a building, but not inside. Or you want inside of a room to have a certain sound to it, but not anywhere else in the house or building. So we're going to take this example here. We have two people, construction, we have a little crane, and we're going to make another sound just for them and their area. Let's do factory manufacturer. And that's pretty loud. We're going to turn that down just a little bit. And we're going to change the distance. Let's make that 10 foot and change it to the box shape. Let's rotate the box to where it is just inside that little space right there. We can bring it up some. That way it goes all the way to the ceiling. And put it even with the floor divider on this side. And with that, when we go into the construction space, it sounds like a small construction zone. We can take that a step even farther and add, let's say the mini crane has some type of alarm on it. Or we don't want to do the fire alarm. That has that going on. We're going to turn that down and change that to 5 foot. So now we have the factory sound, and when we go close to the crane, we have that as well. So it makes it very easy to customize which sounds that you want in any certain area. And it's just a quick and easy way to make your model stand out.
Awesome. So we've touched on materials. We've touched on adding sound. The last core functionality that we want to get into is giving life to your model. This is where you can bring it all together. This is where you really want to give the wow factor to your clients, because at the end of the day, your clients are who you're going to end up caring about showing this to. So show us a little bit about that, Lee.
All right. So for this, I'm going to use the Snowden Tower model. And that's the one that comes standard with Revit 2024. And while it's loading in here, anybody that's taken a look at this model knows it is a massive model. It has the MEP, it has, it's an all-inclusive model. It has everything included. As you can see, I've already done a little bit of work on it. The living walls I've actually replaced with bushes. Some of the trees I've replaced already. We have 2 people up there looking over the city. Stop signs, light posts. But for starters, we're going to replace these cardboard trees. These come standard with Revit, and they're usually the first thing I change out when I'm looking at a model, just because it's relatively simple to do. You go through, you select what trees you want to change out, and we're going to replace object. It opens a little drop down over here. And from there, we can go to the vegetation and pick which objects we want to change out. We have a very small area right here. We do not want to replace them with giant trees. Those are going to go into our buildings. They don't look right. Even if we adjust the age down, it's just not going to work. So we're going to click on them again, replace object, and find something that works better in this area. So let's do pomegranates. There we go. They look better. They're not going through the buildings. It looks nice. We can increase the age of them just a little bit. And looks pretty good. So I'm going to get off of that. Now, that makes it look a lot better, but it's empty. So let's fill up this little space. Now, one of the important things to remember when going into the model is you want to be able to picture in your mind what you want to get out of this going into it. So for me, if I want to take a picture of this area, I'm probably going to choose this angle right here. Or maybe from over here, I'm not going to be worried about what's through that way, what's over that way, or what's behind me. So when I'm creating people and where they're coming from and going to, I'm going to put them in those areas where you don't want people spawning out of nowhere or vanishing into thin air. To add people, we're going to go to populate, and we're going to draw some paths. This is pretty easy to do. We're just going to make a few lines here. And Twinmotion will do the rest. So exit out of that, and I can customize this even farther. I can say, hey, this is going to be midnight. There's not going to be that many people on the street, or this is going to be lunchtime, and we're going to pack it full. Just to make it look fuller, I'm going to do another path going down the other side. And that way I have people walking in multiple directions. If I keep the paths separate, they're not running into each other. Like I said, I don't care about over there. So that's where they're going to spawn and disappear at. We can do the same for vehicles. So let's do paths. We're going to do vehicles. And we're going to add this. We're going to keep them off the sidewalk. Let them not hit our little people on the side. And we're just going to keep the same path this time. And have it disappear over here somewhere. And again, that looks pretty good, but we can do better. Add some, we're going to go back to the library, and we're going to go to characters. Now, Twinmotion comes packed with animated humans. You can animated groups. It has animals. You can go back to the little cardboard cutouts that Revit has, but we're not going to do that. Let's do a little family playing in this area. Let's do a group of friends talking over here. Maybe some more. We can even do another path over on this way. And another feature of the paths is we can control the density. So that's a nice little path right there, but we can add more people walking side by side to it, the denser we make it. I mean the width. So at the end of the day, after doing some adjustments and everything, you can end up with a model that looks about like this. Let's get this loaded in. So here we have bustling streets. We have people walking, people congregating. And from there, we can change the time of day, make it early morning if we wanted to, nighttime. We can control the weather. From this point here, it's just what kind of pictures you want to take, what kind of videos you want to make. The customization options are almost endless. You can do anything you want.
Awesome. No, thank you, Lee. So Lee's shown us a lot of the great features in Twinmotion, and you're probably asking yourself, why should Twinmotion matter to you? So at the end of the day, this is about increasing the client experience, separating yourself from the competition. Did want to read some research. According to Forbes, businesses that utilize realistic visualizations in their presentations have experienced up to a 30% boost in project approvals and sales. Additionally, realistic renderings can also lead to higher contract values. Clients are often willing to invest more in projects when they can clearly visualize the end result. Renderings can be repurposed for marketing and promotional materials, attracting a wider audience and potentially leading to additional business. So Twinmotion at the end of the day is all about separating yourself from the competition out there, increasing the client experience, and that's why Twinmotion should matter to you. So with that, we're going to jump into questions. Let me look into the Q&A bar here. So have a couple questions, Lee, that I want to feed to you. Someone's asking, is Twinmotion available to me now?
So anybody with access to Revit has access to Twinmotion. It's free with the Autodesk package, and any company that's making under, I believe it was $1 million a year from their newest price model has access to Twinmotion for free. There's really no excuse not to use Twinmotion at this point.
Awesome. So it's available to you. Any Autodesk users out there, it's available to you. Also through Epic Games if you're under $1 million in revenue. These next two questions could probably be answered together, so I'll read them in two parts. What kind of processing power do you need to run Twinmotion? And then how long does an image/video take to render?
So it really depends on your processing power. On my laptop, the image of the cabin took about 3 hours to render, and that's using the new Lumen engine instead of ray tracing. So the Lumen engine is a new Lumen setting is a new setting that mocks ray tracing without actually doing the ray tracing. If I were to do that same rendering on my desktop computer with RTX, it would probably take about 15 to 20 minutes. It really depends on what you're trying to get out of it. If you're going full effect, 60 frames per second, it's going to take longer than if you're trying for standard lighting, 30 frames a second. If you're going for a few images, it could take 15 minutes. If you're going for a 15 to 30 minute video, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, anyone with questions about PC specs, get with us. We'd be happy to look at what you're currently utilizing and give you a more specific answer, catered to you. One more question here, Lee. Is there a way to protrude the model edges to reflect the material added? For instance, so a stone wall will have a jagged stone edge versus a pure straight.
So yeah, I can actually show this one off. Any material in Twinmotion, let me go back to the material room, is gonna, if you change out the material from Twinmotion with the Revit material, it's gonna have that jagged edge to it, just because it has that textured quality to it. So like the good example would be the steel plating right here. That table is flat. It has the appearance of the waviness just because the appearance of the waviness is on the material that they've chosen for this. So the stone wall does about the same way. If you look at it from the side, it's going to have that jagged stone texture to it. So I'll just go through some of these questions, even though I'm not sharing my screen anymore. The VR headset integration. So the VR headset works natively, and it uses the Epic Games. It uses the VR headset's native operating system, and it's pretty easy integration. All it is hitting the button, and it will just natively pull it up through the headset. So the Lumen engine, I misspoke when I said that. It's actually a setting in the Unreal Engine. It allows you to mock ray tracing without having the ray tracing turned on, because if you have the ray tracing turned on, it takes a little while to render. So it does have phasing options. I wasn't available to show that today, but it does have where you can set up the phases of the based on the time frame, and you can take your Revit model, and as long as you have the phasing built into that, it should transfer over to your Twinmotion model. If it doesn't, it's easy enough just to select which elements of the model you would like shown. And it's a really useful feature because you can really show off what you're doing at that time and through the future. On my PC specs, I'm going to have to look into that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's a GeForce A6 on the laptop and a RTX 3 something on the desktop.
Looks like there's one about incorporating point clouds.
So yeah, incorporating point clouds. I love that question. As a scanner tech, that's how I found Twinmotion. I was trying to find new and better ways to look at point clouds and have a visualization effect. So it accepts PTS and PTS, LAX, and a few other types of point cloud models. And it's able to open them very quickly, like more so than other softwares I've seen. It's surprisingly fast to open extremely large point clouds. I can show an example of that as well. Let's see. Let me share my screen once again. And so this was one of the first videos that I made using Twinmotion, and it's point clouds. This was taken using a BLK2Go and a RTC 360. And as long as you have the contact points on the point cloud, you can add the people walking around. Didn't spend much time cleaning this point cloud as I should have. But as you can see, this took about, a day and a half to render. It's a pretty long video in its original format. But it does take point clouds very nicely.
Do we have all the questions answered?
Excuse me.
Looks like Birdie got to some of them in the chat, and I think Lee was able to address the others that Birdie didn't get to here in the webinar. So we are going to conclude the webinar. A reminder, a recording will be sent out to everyone that attended and registered. So feel free to share that with your colleagues. And again, thank you so much for attending this webinar in Twinmotion presented by TPM. Thanks.
Thank you.